I'm going to be sharing with you traders how I actually got to catch this. So this was a very beautiful setup we took on Volatility 75, and you can see we rode this very setup and we bagged it massively. So this was actually when I sent this setup. So we printed massively on this trade setup, as you can see. So here on this channel, we actually get to really share what we have actually tried out. Okay, so if you're interested in knowing that, let's quickly dive down to the chat and let's proceed. Hi traders, this is Mr. Promise right here from Green Promise Institute of Trading. Masiolo, this is your very own Forex evangelist. So I'm going to share with you traders how to catch this particular trade setup. So what I did in this right here was, first of all, understanding the concepts around accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Now, in understanding the concept around accumulation, manipulation, distribution, the first thing you need to know is you need to be able to actually understand how to read a valid range. Okay, so a valid range, like I always teach my students, the valid range should have at least two highs and two lows. Okay, so if it's the presence of only just maybe two highs and a low, that is not a range yet. Okay, maybe if it's having maybe two lows and a high, that is also an invalid range. Okay, you want to have two highs, two lows. So when you see that, that's a valid range. So once seeing that, can have maybe more than two, or say at least. Okay, so that's right there is a valid range. So when we do get a valid range, the next thing we want to see is we want to actually be able to identify the price, the manipulation that price have created, right? Because the thing is, first of all, we are actually looking to catch the whole of it in the direction of the trend. And trust me, there is no point of you understanding the concept of accumulation, manipulation, distribution, and you don't really know how to trade and understand how trend works. Okay, now if you do not really know how to don't understand how trend works, trust me, you won't be able to actually take this particular setup. So I do have how I actually take my what I put into consideration. So the first thing is I take into consideration direction, right? I take into consideration direction. The next thing is you need to take into consideration your structure. The next thing you need to take into consideration the POI, point of interest. And the next thing you need to take into consideration the liquidity that must be taken. And nextly, the next thing is you need to take into consideration the confirmation that you want to see. That's if you're not taking limit orders. Okay, so these are just it. So what I love to see is, I love to see first of all my direction. I read my direction from the monthly time frame through to the weekly time frame. I want to see what the higher time frame price action is saying. Now from that, I'll be able to tell, okay, am I supposed to sell or to buy? Now direction from higher time frame, monthly and weekly time frame. Now next, my structure. My structure majorly will use time frames like daily time frame and control time frames like the 4-hour through to 12-hour time frame to read my structure. So I would love to see that price have actually been giving me structures in my direction, and before I now see the range formed inside of that. Now what I'm really looking at for is price will usually, upon forming the range, it's going to give us a manipulation. This manipulation is just in an attempt to actually take out all of this, right? The high, the stop loss of traders above this. Now that is actually going to be considered liquidity. Okay, now usually this liquidity may actually get to confluence with liquidity such as it could be a previous day or previous week highs or lows. Now previous week's highs or low, previous days highs or low. Now these are the liquidity that price might actually love to take. Upon taking that particular liquidity, now price is now going to trade into your POI right here. The POI, the valid point of interest right here. Now this POI could be maybe your order block, your breaker block, whatever you are using. Okay, so upon trading to your POI, then price is going to just form a lower time frame confirmatory right here. We give you a lower time frame shift of structure. Or if you're a trader that use price action, for those retail traders that follow my channel, and you're going to see your price action right here. Once I see your price action, and you just write it to the external range draw right there. So it's a very pretty simple concept. So let me just take you guys down through to how I took that particular trade setup. Okay, now this was it right here. So on the monthly time frame, I have been bearish, right? I've been bearish. For you to have a system, now there's a whole lot to actually doing this. You need to have a systemic way on which you actually get to read your direction, systemic way on which you read your structure. So I've seen the direction on the monthly and the weekly time frame, and I was clearly bearish, looking to take out external range on the weekly and monthly. So this was just all I was just doing. I just went down, I plot my structure on the daily time frame. So you can see also my structure has been very clean, bearish structures. Once I think this was the first time price came back here. So look at this. You agree with me? This is a range right here. Why is this a range? This is a range because we do have the formation of two highs, and obviously you can see two lows. Two highs, two lows. This is a valid range. And what happened? There was a movement that actually was going back. And this movement actually was seeming as if it was a breakout, but this is not a breakout. Okay, that is not a breakout. That is just a manipulation. So it may actually look like a breakout, but in recent, if you actually go to a much higher time frame, this is actually going to look like a week off. Usually it's going to be, that's a fake out movement. So if I show you this movement, most times you may see this movement on a much higher time frame as a fake out. Price is going to weak off that particular level, us trading into a POI right here. In this instance, price traded into an order block right here. The price traded into this order block right here. And upon trading into this order block, now you could have taken this trade right here. You would have refined down through to a lower time frame order block, like a 2-hour time frame order block or thereabouts, and you'd have rolled this trade. This was massive. This was not actually the trade I took. All the setup also, we rolled it down. So, but this was the one right here, like I just showed you guys before starting this video. So this trade right here, we took it from an order block right here. I refined it through to the 2-hour order block right here. However, I'm going to show you guys something that price did, because much later, this trade right here was not actually a demand supply trade. This was a valid demand supply trade. This right here is a valid demand supply trade. Thus that price is not going to take out the protected high. You can see in this case, the high was never tampered with. This is a very clean demand supply trade. For instances where price have actually tampered with the high right here, this is no more a demand supply trade, guys. Okay, you need to know your stuff. You need to know your onion. Okay. Now, right here, price did this now. Now, this is actually a case whereby, yes, even though price traded to this block right here, but this is instances where some retail, some smart money traders may now call this, tend to refer to this as a reclaimed block. Now, ICT traders will let to call this a ship. This accumulation manipulation setup is no different from the concept of engineered liquidity I've earlier taught on this channel. Go and watch it. Trust me, you're going to love it. I told you guys that if price comes to a zone, usually let's say price is bearish, and now price came to a zone, did something like this. Engineered liquidity is when price takes out this liquidity right here, engineered. Thus, there was no inducement around this level why it was going. So it's not going to take out this guy, this liquidity right here, and we're going to use it to trade into this POI right here, thus as sufficient liquidity to now trade to the external range right here. So this is why I taught you traders last year concerning engineered liquidity. Go watch that video, okay, before you come back to this. Now, this is no different from the engineered liquidity concept I taught you. So that's just how accumulation manipulation works. Okay, so now that's that about that. Let's go back. So right here, price just traded into this other block right here. Okay, just taking out this. So it means all of this right here, like we say, the manipulation movement is just to gather orders. It's going to take out all those order, and the whole essence is so that there can be sufficient liquidity to actually reach the full take profit, which is the external range draw right here, the full take profit. Okay, there was also another trade that happened internally. There was a trade right here that happened internally from another block right here. So one could have done this, but I actually did not take this particular trade, but this one. So this was the trade that actually happened within. This was the trade that happened inside of the range right here. So price traded to a block right here. And this instance, you can obviously see that this was a daily block right here that price traded into. The price traded to this daily order block. So it means this right here was the range. Check this out. So the range right here was, so you can see we have a low, a high, a low. So this is an incomplete range, an invalid range yet. But look at this, upon seeing two highs, two lows, that's the range. So what price did was price just what manipulated, traded into the block right here, and upon a lower time frame confirmatory right here, then the distribution movement came to being. So that was the trade, but I did not take that particular trade. That was not the trade I took. This was the trade I took right here. So price did this. Now we got this right here, the bearish structure. Obviously you can see price broke structure nicely right here. So I was just waiting for price to pull back into a block right here. So within this daily higher time frame zone, all I did was I just got to refine my zone. So if you're taking a risk entry, say you're doing limit order entry, you might want to refine through to the lower time frame order block, maybe your 2-hour block, 4-hour block, depending on what you use. Now the time frame you're using for all of that is going to depend on what you are interested in seeing or what you've seen. Then you're not going to know the time frame to actually use. Okay, so I did refine though to the 2-hour block within this zone right here. So what I just did was, this was the manipulation. We got a high, this was a range, a high, check this out, this is a low, and we got another high. This is an incomplete range, invalid yet, but upon seeing two lows, two highs, then that's the range. So what I just did was, within this range right here, I just finally took out the range, and you see that traded into the block right there, took order, and the distribution move happened. So upon sighting your lower time frame confirmatory right here, lower time frame shift of structure, whatever you use for your confirmation. So even though you're a retail trader, you are waiting for your lower time frame price action right here, then you pull the trigger. So I saw that, and upon seeing my lower time frame confirmatory, I pulled the trigger. So you might use your lower time frame confirmatory from maybe your 2-hour through to your 30-minute time frame like that, since it's more of a swing trade setup. Okay, so directional bias, monthly, weekly time frame, that was what I use. Structure, I love using the daily time frame. So however, I also love focusing on the 4-hour time frame through to the 12-hour time frame for my structure. I don't like going lower than that to just reduce the noise. Okay, then the POI, I love to use higher time frame POI from the daily through to control time frame like 2-hour, 4-hour time frame. So for liquidity, I love seeing price taking out previous week highs or lows, previous day highs or lows. So if you are doing it intraday, you might look out for price taking out your quarterly highs or lows, or sessions highs or lows, if you understand that, especially when trading forex pairs. So for confirmatory, you might use your control time frame price action. You might use rejection on time frames like 4-hour time frame and all of that, and you might also use shift of structure on the hourly time frames. So that was just how I pulled that particular trade set up. So however, this trade right here was a very clean demand supply entry, as you can see. So one of the ways that you know and validate a nice demand supply entry is you don't want to see price take out the protected high or low. Look at this, there was a high right here, this high of the other block. This high of the other block was not tampered with. So in this instance where price traded into the block nicely and respected the block 100%, was going down, this is actually instance where we see this is the valid demand supply entry. Okay, but this right here was not a valid demand supply entry. Okay, you need to understand your onion, you need to know your onion very well. Now this is instance where some smart money traders will say the block was reclaimed. So reclaimed block. So ICD traders would like to refer to this as a sweep of liquidity. A sweep of liquidity. You can see obviously the price just came to that zone. Now price rejected. On a more higher time frame, you're going to see that price is going to reject. Upon trading into that rejection, the price goes back into the range. So this is what happened right here. There's a shift, a sweep. Okay, but nicely, if you still set your limit order, just make sure that your stop loss is not directly on this right here. Give it some little breathing room, and that would have just picked you right there. So I actually framed this on the 2-hour block right there, but it was not a limit order entry. I took the entry from a lower time frame confirmatory right here, and we rolled that particular trade setup. So the trade was framed just like this from this right here, and we don't have a bar replay tool here. I would have just replayed it so you get to see what we are talking about. So this is how I took that trade, and I bagged it with the community. So we bagged it nicely and we printed heavily on it. So if you do want a full checklist of all I look out for before taking my trades, before we always pull our trades, consistent wins that we've been having on the platform using our system. So if I want to just comment checklists, and I'm going to send you, all you just have to do, comment checklist, and I'll send you the list to your DM. You can also just DM me on Telegram or any of our social media platform. I'm going to send you the full checklist of how we pull out these consistent wins every single time. So Mr. Promise right here. Until I come your way next time, stay profitable, stay peaceful.